Have you ever, like, sat in a room full of people?
Yeah, people you genuinely love.
Right, having an objectively great time. But suddenly, you feel this overwhelming, quiet urge to just escape.
Like your body is just telling you to flee.
Exactly. You are laughing, you're engaged, but deep down, your brain is just screaming, get me out of here.
It is a really specific and honestly confusing kind of exhaustion
It really is.
because you feel guilty. You actually want to be there, but your body is treating the dinner table like a literal threat it needs to run from.
So today, we are dedicating this entire deep dive to understanding the biology behind that exact feeling.
Yeah, the real science of it.
Right. We are looking at psychological research, neuroscience, behavioral data to figure out what is actually happening in your nervous system when talking to people feels so exhausting.
Because our mission here is to explain why social battery exhaustion is a biological limit.
Not a character flaw.
Exactly. And we want to look at how to protect your energy without just, shutting out the world entirely.
So let's start with the basics. If this isn't just being shy, what is actually happening in the brain when we hit that wall?
Well, to put in biological terms, it happens when the mental effort of processing another person just exceeds the cognitive resources your brain has available in that specific moment.
So it is a literal resource depletion.
Yeah, it is. It's an actual physical limit.
That makes me think of a smartphone. You know, when you have too many heavy apps running in the background and the phone starts getting physically hot?
Yes, perfect analogy.
And then the battery just plummets from 80% to 10% in like a matter of minutes.
Right.
But if we follow that analogy, what are the human background apps running during a casual conversation? I mean, it feels like we were just sitting there talking.
Well, the smartphone analogy is the perfect lens for this because the heaviest apps on your phone are the ones processing real-time video and audio.
Oh, wow. Which is exactly what your brain is doing.
Exactly. When you are having a conversation, your brain is performing several high-level jobs simultaneously. It's decoding incoming language, which requires your auditory cortex and language centers to work in absolute overdrive.
Right.
And at the same time, your visual cortex is reading micro-expressions and nonverbal cues.
So you're reading their face while listening to their words.
Yeah, and your amygdala is managing your emotional reactions to what is being said. Plus, your prefrontal cortex is filtering your own thoughts to generate an appropriate response.
At the same time.
All at once. You are doing all of this in fractions of a second on a continuous loop.
When you lay it out like that, it sounds like running a marathon.
It basically is.
The cognitive load is massive, but it's entirely invisible.
And because it depletes silently, it catches people completely by surprise. I mean, interacting with others carries a heavier cognitive load than almost anything else you do in a normal day.
Which is wild to think about.
Yeah. And when those resources start to run dry, the warning signs bleed into your behavior.
I imagine people try to mask those warning signs. I know I do anyway.
Oh, definitely. We all do.
You start giving shorter answers. You stop asking follow-up questions. You do that autopilot nod where you look like you are listening, but the words are just washing right over you.
Those are the visible symptoms, but the internal alarms are much more intense.
Like what?
Well, your thoughts might suddenly get foggy mid-sentence. You might feel tension creeping into your jaw or your shoulders.
Yeah, that physical tightness.
Right. And then there is that low-grade urge to escape that we talked about, an urge that feels deeply urgent, even if you are just sitting with your best friend.
The age factor in all this is fascinating to me because depending on where you are in life, you interpret those internal alarms completely differently.
You really do.
Like, if you are in your 20s and you feel this urge to flee a party, you probably assume you have social anxiety.
Right, you pathologize it.
Yeah, you label yourself as awkward or broken, which does incredible damage to your self-image while you are still just trying to figure out who you are.
And then you move into your 30s. And this biological exhaustion collides with peak life demands. You're juggling career pressures, maybe a growing relationship, or family expectations.
All pulling on the exact same limited cognitive battery.
Exactly. And this is where the self-doubt really peaks. You feel like you are failing at being a functional adult because you cannot handle a full workday and a dinner party without wanting to just collapse.
If you never learn to recognize it, I can see how by your late 30s or 40s, that exhaustion could easily calcify into a habit of total avoidance.
Yeah, you just stop going out altogether.
Which is why discovering this concept later in life, particularly for people over 45, often brings a profound sense of relief.
It's huge.
It gives them permission to stop pretending that constant hypersocializing was ever biologically sustainable for their specific nervous system.
Yes, and the nervous system is the key here.
Let's actually dig into that specific nervous system aspect because there is a neurological mechanism here that completely changed how I viewed downtime.
Oh, the default mode network.
Yes, the default mode network.
Or the DMN. It is a web of interacting brain regions that activate when you are not focused on the outside world. It is the system responsible for internal reflection, daydreaming, and cognitive rest.
Right.
And when Harvard researchers studied this network, they found something critical. During active social engagement, the DMN gets actively suppressed.
So it's like a computer that physically cannot run its cooling fan while the processor is under a heavy load.
That is exactly it.
The very system your mind relies on to recover is switched off the entire time you are talking to someone.
You physically cannot rest and socialize at the same time. The brain has to shift into the central executive network to manage the conversation.
Meaning the switch for rest is flipped completely to off.
Right?
That raises a huge question about extroverts, though.
Yep.
The common wisdom is that extroverts charge their battery by being around people. Does this mean they have some sort of biological immunity?
It seems like it, right?
Yeah, does their default mode network just stay on?
No, they are not immune, and their DMN shuts down just like anyone else's. Research in the APA shows the difference actually lies in dopamine sensitivity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Introversion and extroversion exist on a spectrum tied directly to how your brain processes dopamine, the reward chemical.
So how does dopamine sensitivity dictate how fast the battery drains?
Think of the introverted nervous system as having highly sensitive dopamine receptors. When they interact with people, it is incredibly stimulating, like drinking from a fire hose.
Wow.
Because the input feels so loud and rich, their brain reaches its saturation point very quickly. The battery drains fast because the cognitive load hits its maximum threshold much sooner.
And the extrovert has less sensitive receptors.
Yes, they have a higher stimulation threshold. They need more social interaction just to feel a baseline level of reward. So they can stay at the party for 6 hours before they hit the bottom of their battery.
Whereas the highly sensitive nervous system hits that same bottom in 2 hours.
Exactly. But both experience cognitive depletion eventually.
That connects perfectly to the concept of baseline cortical arousal, which came out of Cambridge University research.
Right. A great concept.
We naturally vary in how stimulated our brains are at rest. Some nervous systems are just buzzing at a higher frequency by default.
So a very literal one. Think about the muscles around your eyes and jaw. They are working continuously to manage your facial expressions during a 2-hour dinner.
That's so true.
It is a low-level, continuous physical effort. And on top of that, your heart rate and your breathing patterns shift subtly to match the rhythm of sustained engagement.
Wow.
This somatic cost accumulates across a full day of meetings and small talk, even if the conversations were perfectly pleasant.
I want to look at why this fluctuates so wildly day to day, because I will have a week where I can go to a crowded event and feel totally fine.
Right.
But then 3 days later, a 5-minute chat in the grocery store aisle leaves me needing a nap. If my dopamine sensitivity is a stable trait, what is causing the battery size to shrink so dramatically?
The fluctuation comes down to biological intensifiers.
Biological intensifiers.
Yeah. These are daily lifestyle factors that dictate how much cognitive reserve you actually start the day with.
Like sleep, I'm guessing.
Sleep is the most obvious one. As you are awake, a chemical called adenosine builds up in the brain, causing sleepiness. A bad night of sleep means you don't clear that adenosine.
So you wake up with a severely compromised baseline processing capacity.
Exactly. So a grocery store chat on a bad night's sleep is pulling from a battery that started at 20%.
What about food?
Well, conversation requires sustained attention, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain managing that attention, is an absolute glucose hog.
Right. It needs fuel.
If you skip lunch and go straight into an afternoon of networking, you are denying your brain the basic physical fuel it needs to filter thoughts and read social cues. Exhaustion sets in rapidly because the engine is literally running on fumes.
And caffeine, I know a lot of people grab a light coffee to push through an evening event.
Caffeine late in the day is a massive trap.
Really?
Yeah, you might feel a temporary jolt of alertness, but you are pushing an already taxed nervous system further into overstimulation. You are forcing the processor to run even hotter, which makes the inevitable crash significantly steeper.
I have to bring up the ultimate social crutch here. Alcohol.
Uh-huh.
People use it to lower their inhibitions and take the edge off the cognitive load.
Yeah, and it acts as a depressant, which dulls the sensory input in the moment, making the environment feel less overwhelming.
So it helps in the short term.
But the tax comes due the next day. Alcohol severely disrupts the brain's ability to achieve deep, restorative sleep.
Oh, of course.
It blocks the default mode network from fully repairing the cognitive fatigue, creating this social hangover that leaves you far more depleted than the actual socializing would have.
Okay, here is a modern dilemma that challenges this whole framework. Let's say I avoid the party entirely.
Okay.
I stay home, I sit on my couch in sweatpants, and I just tack my friends for 3 hours. I am physically alone, resting my body. That should be restoring my battery, right?
It feels like physical rest,
Yes.
but neurologically, you are running a marathon. Texting, replying to comments, and managing notifications is called micro-socializing.
Micro-socializing.
Yes, and it draws on the exact same cognitive resources as a face-to-face chat.
Because I am still having to decode language and generate responses.
Plus, you are missing all the nonverbal cues, which actually forces the brain to work harder to interpret tone.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Add to that the dopamine dysregulation from the unpredictable pings of your phone, and your default mode network never gets a chance to turn on. You are quietly draining your battery in an empty room.
That completely reframes a quiet night in on the phone. And this invisible drain overlaps with psychological habits, too.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone struggles with chronic people-pleasing, they are terrified of disappointing others. They burn through their self-regulation resources just figuring out how to say yes to a favor they actually want to decline.
To layer on our modern comparison culture, you watch highly extroverted people on social media navigating crowded rooms effortlessly.
Right, and you interpret your very normal biological tiredness as a personal failure.
Exactly. You add guilt and shame to the cognitive load, which accelerates the depletion even further.
When we zoom out and look at the real-world impact of this, the data is staggering. The Pew Research Center found that a significant majority of adults explicitly need regular alone time just to feel functional.
Regardless of how social they consider themselves.
Right.
We see the breaking point most clearly in the workplace. Research from Gallup and Harvard Business Review shows that employees are suffering from immense mental fatigue driven purely by the volume of meetings and collaboration.
Wow.
Chronic social overexertion at work is now directly linked to burnout.
And the crucial distinction in that data is that the burnout was completely independent of their actual task workload.
Yes, exactly.
It wasn't the spreadsheets, the coding, or the physical labor breaking them down. It was the interpersonal demand, the sheer volume of processing other humans.
Open plan offices are a perfect case study for this. University of California research demonstrates that open layouts increase unplanned, forced social contact.
Which is the whole point of them, allegedly.
Right, but that directly correlates with higher reported fatigue and lower focus compared to people in private workspaces.
It highlights a deep irony in corporate culture. We treat constant availability and perpetual friendliness as a moral obligation.
We really do.
We design offices to force interaction, assuming it builds a stronger team. But repeatedly pushing through cognitive depletion does not build tolerance.
No, it achieves the exact opposite. Ignoring depletion signals just trains your brain to associate the workplace with threat and exhaustion.
Which leads to a growing pattern of avoidance and resentment over time.
Consider someone like Sarah, a sales professional, dealing with this exact dynamic. She spent 8 hours a day being warm, engaged, and persuasive with strangers.
Sounds exhausting.
It was. For years, she assumed that the heavy, crushing fatigue she felt every evening was just the normal cost of being a working adult.
Right.
She would come home, snap at her partner, cancel weekend plans, and wonder if her personality was fundamentally broken.
Because her battery was chronically at zero before she even walked through her front door.
Exactly. But the turning point for her was surprisingly small. She started taking just 5 minutes of complete silence between her client calls.
She just sat quietly before dialing the next number.
That's it.
And that tiny window of silence was enough to let her default mode network briefly reactivate. It cooled the processor.
Yeah, she made those recovery breaks a non-negotiable part of her routine, and within weeks, she reclaimed her evening energy.
That's incredible. Then you have managers like Michael who fall into the trap of constant availability.
Oh, the open door policy trap.
Yeah, he wanted to be the perfect boss, answering messages instantly, joining every optional meeting, keeping his door open.
And predictably, he started experiencing intense mid-afternoon brain fog.
Right, and he couldn't focus on the high-level strategy work he actually enjoyed. He
Mhm.
realized his best ideas always came in the quiet mornings before the office filled up.
So what did he do?
He stopped trying to build a bigger battery and started protecting the one he had. He blocked off his mornings for focused, low-stimulation time. He declined meetings that didn't strictly require his input.
And the irony is, by being less available in the morning, his team felt he was vastly more present and effective in the afternoon.
He stopped showing up to afternoon strategy sessions with an empty battery.
Exactly. And we see this same principle in personal lives, like Jennifer, who suffered from severe Sunday dread.
Oh, I know that feeling.
She assumed she hated her job, but the reality was she was suffering from unrecovered social exhaustion. She was packing her weekends back-to-back with brunches, dinners, and group outings.
So she was entering Monday morning already depleted.
Right. Once she started spacing out her social plans and deliberately leaving one weekend morning entirely unscheduled, the Sunday dread just vanished.
Well,
She was actually excited for the week ahead because her nervous system had finally caught up.
these scenarios prove that while we cannot escape society, we can absolutely build a defense strategy to work in tandem with our biology.
We really can.
Let's break down that defense strategy into 3 actionable themes, starting with what we can call the pregame. How do we set the battery up for success before the demand even starts?
The foundation of the pregame is pre-recovery. You have to schedule recovery time before a demanding event, not just hope you can rest afterward.
Right.
Entering a crowded room with a battery at 100% fundamentally changes how long your prefrontal cortex can manage the cognitive load without tipping into exhaustion.
Part of that pregame is protecting your mornings, just like Michael the manager did. Reserving the start of your day for unstructured, low-input solitude prevents you from spending your freshest energy decoding emails and texts.
Yes.
If you don't open your messaging apps the second you wake up, you preserve a massive reservoir of energy for the rest of the day.
The pregame also requires you to identify your personal depleters. You have to observe which people drain your energy fastest.
That sounds tough.
It requires a lot of honesty because it often has nothing to do with how much you love the person. Someone can be your closest friend, but if their communication style is highly erratic or demanding, they require a massive cognitive load from you.
Recognizing that allows you to mentally prepare for the interaction.
Exactly.
Moving to the second theme, let's call it the fast charge. When you are actively in the middle of a social event and you feel the fog rolling in, how do you stop the crash?
This is where micro breaks become your absolute best tool. You have to learn to notice the early warning signs, the chest tightness, the wandering mind, before you hit zero.
Right.
When you feel it, step away. Go to the bathroom, step out onto a patio, or just walk down a quiet hallway for 2 to 3 minutes.
That 2-minute window is all the brain needs to switch the default mode network back on, clear out some of the cognitive backlog, and essentially reset the system.
Right. And alongside micro breaks, you have to master the graceful decline. You protect your mid-game energy by saying no to optional extensions of the event.
Like the after party.
Exactly. If the dinner is winding down and someone suggests moving to a second location, a short, honest decline preserves your remaining battery much better than agreeing out of guilt.
Because then you just spend the next 2 hours resentful and disengaged anyway.
Precisely.
That leads perfectly into the final theme, the off-ramp. The social event is over, but the brain is still buzzing. How do we signal to the nervous system that it is safe to power down?
You need to build transition rituals. When social time ends, the brain needs a physical signal that the threat of cognitive demand is gone.
So what does that look like?
A 10-minute silent walk, driving home without the radio on, or just sitting in a screen-free room. You are actively telling your brain that it is safe to begin the recovery process.
But that off-ramp is completely destroyed if you immediately pick up your phone.
Yes, completely. Putting hard boundaries around micro-socializing is critical here. If you leave a party and instantly start replying to group chats, you are keeping the central executive network engaged. Finally, communication is the ultimate off-ramp tool. You have to tell the people close to you how your battery works.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you go quiet after a long day, they need to know it is a biological need for DMN activation, not a sign that you are angry or uninterested in them.
A surprising truth emerges when you look at all these strategies together. The goal isn't necessarily to become a hermit and see fewer people. The solution is controlling the predictability and the quality of the input.
Exactly.
For instance, prioritizing a one-on-one coffee over a 10-person dinner party. The brain only has to track one face, decode one voice, and manage one emotional dynamic.
The cognitive load is a fraction of what it would be in a group setting. It is about intentionality. You are designing a life that allows for sustainable connection rather than chronic depletion.
If you are listening to this and you have spent your life feeling guilty for needing to leave the party early or for hiding in the bathroom just to get 3 minutes of silence, needing space is not a flaw in your personality.
No, it's really not.
It is a sign of a healthy functioning nervous system appropriately responding to heavy cognitive demand.
By prioritizing these small, awareness-driven habits, whether it is guarding your mornings or taking a silent walk after work, you aren't being selfish.
Right.
You're preserving your best, most vibrant energy for the people and the pursuits that truly matter to you.
Viewing this through the lens of biology rather than personal failure changes absolutely everything. But it leaves me with one final lingering question for you to consider.
Hmm.
If our brains are quite literally hardwired to require significant offline recovery time after socializing, how much of our modern epidemic of burnout, exhaustion, and chronic anxiety is simply the result of living in a hyper-connected 2047 digital world that our nervous systems were never evolved to handle? Next time you are in a room full of people you love and you feel that quiet urge to slip away, remember, it's not you. It's just your battery telling you it's time to plug in.